The Browns and Bills square off on Sunday. These two teams used to be in a very similar place at the bottom of the NFL. One's gone on the trajectory towards Super Bowls, the other still looking for relevancy. It's an interesting matchup between two AFC foes, and we're looking forward to breaking it down with you on top of a whole host of other topics. It's Anthony Moeglin, Spencer German here with you as we get you ready for another week of Cleveland Browns football. Only 3 more of these to go.
Hey, Spence, a little excitement here, dude. We got left.
Only 3 more of these, and then it's all mercilessly over. And we get ready for off-season mode. But certainly a lot to talk about. Do want to remind you guys to head on over to brownsroundtable.com and join the community space. Here, I got a deal for you. We are now potentially making money off of getting new people to join the site.
Wow.
So if you join the site, tag me or Megs and let us know, like, hey, I joined because I watched your video, and then we get evidence that we did it. So help us out. We'll help you out. We'll give you a space to sort of talk Browns, join that community section, all those fun things. You can also subscribe if you haven't done so already to our YouTube channel and follow along with all of our great content throughout the season, the rest of the season, and the off season, press conferences, post-game, pre-game, off-season stuff and news and all that. And we'll have this pod.
I was back in the film room last night, and I'm going to start getting back into it here as we get into the off-season. So, and it'll all go to YouTube. So I was just
all right. Yeah,
I scratched an itch that I hadn't scratched in a while, and it felt good.
Well, there you go. So that's even more content you can find over at the YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to the Browns Roundtable YouTube. Megs, we are going to get into the Browns and Bills matchup. I think that's a topic certainly for like the back end of the show in particular as we sort of preview the matchup and all that. But I think where I feel like it's appropriate to start at least is where we think this season is heading with 3 games to go, which is that something's going to change within this front office, within this coaching staff, either or, maybe both. But one thing that I sort of have picked up on in recent weeks, and that I think is an interesting layer to all this, is the idea that maybe one of these guys, Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, is safe, and the other one is on the outs. I think it's kind of obvious at this point, like which one is which. I think at this point it seems almost impossible that Kevin Stefanski isn't going to be let go at the end of the season. But that doesn't necessarily mean Andrew Berry is going to not be here. And I think we can get into whether or not we agree that that's the way this should all go down if there's changes made. And we can certainly do that. But I'm curious your perspective on this from like the outside looking in, even not being in the building every day, because the organization's in an interesting spot when it comes to trying to get this thing on the tracks and who Jimmy Haslam's going to turn to for trust and all that. And, I wonder if maybe that the happy medium in all this for Jimmy, at least, is with a regime that he's continually said he likes these guys, he trusts these guys, is, all right, we need to change something. So Kevin, I'm sorry, it's time for you to go. Things have run their course, but we're going to keep Andrew Berry around and kind of see if he can see this rebuild through, especially after the great draft class that he had in 2025.
Yeah, I think if we start this conversation a year ago at this time, it's a totally different story.
That's a good point. Like that, it's flip-flopped, right? I think a year ago we're probably like Kevin gets to survive and Andrew probably doesn't get to survive.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
And what's really the norm too here is the outlier, the bad draft classes and the bad free agency signings for Andrew Berry, or is the outlier the amazing draft class that he had? And it's obviously like I don't know, it's a catch-22 conversation. There's no really right answer, but arguably Andrew Berry put together the best draft class in the entire NFL, like in the entire league this year. I mean, he at one point had potentially the defensive rookie of the year and the offensive rookie of the year in Quinshon Judkins before the Browns offensive line got decimated. But like Carson Schlesinger is a legit dude. You've built up this the defense at least, with a star at each level. And now he's just got to do it on the offensive side. He hasn't proved that he can do it. He hasn't proved that he can draft offensive linemen. He hasn't proved that he can draft wide receivers. He certainly hasn't proved that he can draft quarterbacks. Like, that's the scary part, I would say. Like, but he has earned himself some goodwill because the draft class he put together is objectively awesome. It is an awesome class. And that's where that's the hard part of the conversation is like, what does Jimmy value in terms of the past here? How much do you weight last year compared to the 3 years before that.
And he does deserve credit, Andrew Berry, that is, for this draft class. I'm not going to downplay the notion that, like, yeah, he knocked this one out of the park, and that goes up. That's on his resume the same way the missed draft classes are on his resume. So we can't just like gloss over the fact that he nailed this one. That's very true. Real quick, the reason I feel like there might be a split happening here is there's been some signs, some tea leaves that just make me think some people know what's coming. I think this goes back to Kevin Stefanski's comments when the Joe Flacco trade went down, and he sat there and said, yeah, no, I was surprised by this. And he tried to clarify it the next time he spoke on, like, I just meant like we didn't necessarily think this was coming, but it was still like he
doesn't mess up. He doesn't.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like you can't put it back. What is it? The phrase, you can't put the
toothpaste back.
The toothpaste back in the tube is a good way to put it. Like normally in those situations, he just says, yeah, we trust Andrew. We're in lockstep on these decisions, blah, blah, blah. Him saying, I was surprised. Everybody, I think, sort of took note of that. Then the season continues playing out. You have Boba Ventrone's comments a couple weeks ago where he flat out said, he was asked about, like, yeah, do you think you have guys in the right spots on special teams, given all the issues you've had? And he says, based on the roster we have, like, yeah, I think we're making the most of it. That was like a direct shot at across the bow at the construction of this roster right now. And then, like Tommy Rees, I know Tommy Rees is a hot candidate, but Tommy Rees being linked to other jobs potentially, like those things all sort of suggest, well, maybe they're putting some feelers out there because they're understanding something might be coming here. I think Paulie Podesta leaving sort of plays into that a little bit too. So this isn't me saying like I know anything definitively is going to happen, but I think we're all kind of feeling that way. And those tea leaves tell me that maybe Barry gets to survive and Kevin doesn't. I think there's been sort of this coaching staff trying to separate themselves from the personnel staff in this franchise to sort of set themselves up for whatever's to come next for them. So I think that's all very interesting, and that's why I'm even having this conversation in the first place. Now, for me, I think it's really hard to separate the two, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. I mean, because they've been in lockstep this whole time. They've been promoted as being in lockstep. Their contracts align, and to me, it's like they keep saying everyone had a hand in the Deshaun thing. Guess what? Everyone had a hand in the team being where they're at right now, where they're trending towards 3-14 for a second consecutive year. As much as Kevin, I think, has really had some warts on the field in recent games, especially that have cost the Browns. We also know why he's in those situations and why they're falling short on the field because of the drafts previously. And we can say what we want about like why that was the case. Yes, there's context there. They didn't have first round picks and all those things, but who put them in that situation? Andrew Berry's the GM. He made that trade. Yes. So I can't forget about the previous drafts just because he had one really good one that seems like it's going to set them up for success in the near future. And so for that reason, like I think if you're gonna change stuff, you need to change everything and start fresh with a new group. But my feeling right now is that that's not going to happen. And Barry's going to maybe still be here to see this thing through.
Yeah, I think the devil's advocate in this is, the other sideline on Sunday where the Bears, let go of Eberflus last year, but hold on to help me with their GM's name. I can't think of it. If you have
oh man, why am I drawing a blank?
Oh no. Oh no!
You put me on the spot with this one.
Ryan
Poles.
They kept Poles, and they let Eberflus go, and they obviously nailed the hire, and they land on a couple veteran. They remade the interior of their offensive line, and like that's really the story of the Bears. It's like they remade that, drafted a good receiver. Basically, they're like if the Browns could follow their blueprint, they'd be exactly in the same spot that the Bears are in next year because they had a good defense. They had a bad offense. They had a horrible offensive line. They fixed the offensive line in free agency.
They also drafted the quarterback, though. So
they also had Caleb Williams, right? So they had Caleb Williams. So they did that. And then, I don't know. That's the devil's advocate to me is that, all right, if you can land on a coach that just mixes things up, like, what is, Liam Cohen in Jacksonville right now, and Ben Johnson, obviously, and in Chicago, and then McDonald in Seattle. You get a guy who can change things, and that's making the call. The Browns looked disinterested. Like, that was the first thing that like came to mind to me on Sunday. It was the first time in Kevin Stefanski's years that he looks like he doesn't care anymore. The team certainly didn't care about playing football on Sunday, and it was like, all right, this is a big deal. And I certainly don't think that that's the right answer, but I don't know the right answer, and I think that what is the path of, I guess, least resistance would be to let the play caller go and keep the construction of the roster going. If it's right, if it's wrong, but I don't know. I guess I'm saying all this to say I don't know the right answer, and I could certainly see there being a world where they let the coach go and keep the GM. But I don't know. I tend to agree with you that if you're going to do it, just do it and strip it down to the studs and restart.
Yeah. I think you're on the right track with this, and I like your example of like the Bears and how they did it and some of these other teams. What I think is also interesting about that, and I brought up Paul DePodesta, Jimmy Haslam. That was his right hand man.
Yeah,
right? Was Paul DePodesta. He was helping. He was at the forefront of a lot of the decisions that they made, dating back to, when did he get here? Like 2016 or whatever the hell it was. So, and that's what I think about. That's like when they started the tanking, then getting all these draft picks, then getting all the players that sort of set the
Moneyball.
Yeah, like it was all that. And so Jimmy's going to be looking for somebody else to confide in now. He's going to be looking for that new right-hand man. Maybe that is Andrew Berry, to your point. And he says, all right, listen, Andrew, you had a really good draft class. I want to help you see this thing through. The Deshaun thing, we all got to kind of own here. I'm not putting it all on you. So I'm going to let you do your thing and find a quarterback here and do what you need to do. And, hopefully we can come out on the other side of this and figure it out. I'm going to let you choose your coach, because last time around, Kevin got here first, and then they ended up picking Andrew Berry. I wonder if all those, if that's maybe the path that this thing takes and the way it goes, and if that's where this thing is headed. So again, I think we're on the right track with this conversation in general. But these are just some thoughts that I have as we get closer and closer to some change happening. Because I feel pretty confident saying right now something's going to change. And as much as I think you can't untie these guys or untether these guys to each other, it feels like that might be the route that Jimmy Haslam takes, as like a happy medium. Is we're going to keep Andrew Berry, and that's going to be my new right-hand man. And it's time to make a change with the coaching staff because the results just aren't good enough.
And Spence, I've been using the Bears as the example, but like, look out in Denver. Denver's going to be the 1 seed in the NFL this year, and they literally had a carbon copy situation with Russell Wilson, right, where he had a major contract. They brought him in with, I'm doing horrible with names. Who was the offensive coordinator for Rodgers, and he was the head coach? The gold zone. He called it the gold zone.
I don't remember this one either. Now really put me on the spot.
That is brutal by me. But they brought in Russell Wilson. Let's see. Let's get this right.
I got it. Hold on. You keep talking. I'll find it.
But they cut bait on
Nathaniel Hackett.
Hackett. Yes, they bring him in, and they're with. I'm not putting you on the spot the rest of the way. But they cut.
It's the time we're recording this too. It's like late. I'm like, I'm not thinking about these ex-Broncos
coaches right now. Nathaniel Hackett, not on your bingo card for today. Not on your bingo card for today. But they cut bait with Russell Wilson, eat the cap hit, land the quarterback in the draft, build around him, and all of a sudden they're the 1 seed in the AFC. That was 2 years ago. Like, Bo Nix in his second year, second or third year. And it's like, all right, they flipped it around that quickly, and it can be done. It can be done if you do it right. You just got to commit to something and go and do it. But you're right. It does feel they can't bring this. They can't bring it back. They simply can't. You cannot run it back the same way that they have and expect things to go any differently, especially, Germ, if they go and they get a quarterback here and you're like, all right, we talked about this the other day, but like, now you have a lame duck coach and the quarterback's going to start and the coach is going to get fired. And then we're all back. It's time's a flat circle.
Because they might be bad again next year, Megs. Like they got to build it. They got to build an entire offensive line in one offseason. Like that's not a recipe to winning quickly. Like I don't, and like, maybe if they get the quarterback right, maybe that's different, because like we've seen some of these rookie quarterbacks just take over a team. But and there's another conversation there I want to get to at some point. But yeah, man, like I'm with you. Like something has to change because, and that's the other thing you got to think about here. Like the organization does have to think about optics to a degree. I know to this point they've kind of just said they with the going back to the Deshaun trade, they sort of threw caution to the wind and said, "Hey, if we're winning football with this guy, people are going to look the other way on all the off the field stuff." Well, guess what? They're not. And
Yeah.
so if they to run it back and be like, "All right, guys, 2026, we got Kevin and Andrew and Deshaun back again." Like fans aren't signing up for that, and they have a new stadium to think about that they're trying to sell for 2029. I know that still feels like it's a ways away, but it's coming quick here. Like they only got a few years, and they got to get people on board with that. They're going to be doing PSLs. So they have to think about optics a little bit here as they start thinking about those things. And so I think all that matters, which is why I do agree. I think some change is coming here in the next couple of weeks. Some other stuff we want to get to. I don't want to spend the entire pod talking this. Did you have one final thought?
I had a thought here, and it's totally unrelated. This is like totally unrelated, but you talked about the stadium. Did you see the Bears news about their stadium?
I actually, you know what's funny is before we recorded this, I was reading that article like earlier tonight while I was laying in bed watching a movie with my wife. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, listen, I just drove that trip. Indiana is not far from where Chicago is. Like the border's like right there. So it's not like they'd be like super, super far away, but man, they're having some issues. They're leveraging everything when it comes to trying to find that new stadium because people are like so adamant they don't go to Arlington Heights or whatever, which is near the airport. So it's a dicey situation.
People are mad about Brook Park, which is 10 minutes from Cleveland. It'd be the same as they like. All right,
it's not in Cleveland city limits or whatever.
Right? Yeah, we're putting the Browns Stadium in Erie, Pennsylvania. Is basically what.
Basically, it's good to know. Yeah, what if that Erie's a little farther.
Erie's
but
Erie's a hike, but whatever the first city outside or inside the Pennsylvania border on Route 90 is.
But yeah, I mean, it's a fair point though. Like it's good to know that the Browns.
I quickly turned this into Bears Roundtable. So sorry.
No, it's all good. It's good to know that like other teams deal with the same BS when it comes to stadium talk. So, what else do we want to get to? Yeah. So listen, I obviously this weekend is another big game for Shedeur. Coming off what I think is probably his worst performance since taking over a starter against Chicago through the 3 picks. The one wasn't his fault. You know, he talked today or on Wednesday, I should say, just about, you know, continuing to get better, the progress he's continuing to make, all those different things. But, you know, I guess I'm curious, Megs, like, I don't know that there's like a set or a set like thing you can put your finger on and say, in 7 games, we'll know this, right? But we've talked about it ad nauseum. That's what Shedeur has at his disposal here. Is he has 3 games left, 7 in total, to basically convince the Browns I'm worth investing in 2026. Who, no matter who's here, in order to maybe be like have a shot at being the franchise quarterback and maybe not drafting a guy. And I just don't know, like based on what we saw on Sunday, unless he takes like massive strides, which he hasn't done at this point. Like it's been sort of a gradual thing. And by the way, that's okay. Yeah. I'm not saying it's not okay for him to have like a gradual sort of growth here. That's how it works for young rookie quarterbacks anyway. But you know, if unless he takes major strides and he's like looking like the Titans game with a better completion percentage the last 3 weeks, I don't know that it can be like a foregone conclusion. You know, don't take a quarterback or like you have your guy. And I think the Browns are probably going to operate that way. Yeah. If there's a guy they like in this draft class at quarterback, they're probably going to take him if he's sitting there when they're on the board. I think people need to sort of prepare themselves.
Okay. So, all right. So I have some thoughts here, and this you're gonna have to cut me off because I have a little bit of a long.
You have thoughts on Shedeur, or do you have thoughts
all of it connected? Okay. So the Shedeur part of it. So we've been waiting for this like for all year long. We talked about this in April when they drafted 2. We talked about it in training camp. We talked about it when Dylan took the reins and like when stuff started to go bad. Like we knew he was going to have a shrunk time frame here. There's nothing he can do. He could go 3-0 here and you know the rest of the way, and like everyone would still be like, well, he played bad against San Francisco and he played bad here. Maybe they think about it. But this is also the same fan base that still wants Baker Mayfield to like come back, and he's in year 8, right? So it's not like you're going to get 7 games out of.
He's come back down to earth though, Baker Mayfield.
He sucks. He's just bad. He's just not good. But we don't get into that. But like the point is that it's year 8 for him, and then and everyone's like, all right, well, why didn't we give him enough time? Why didn't we give him 4 years? Why didn't we give him 5 years? Like, you're not going to get out of 7 games. You're not going to get enough. And like you said, I think it's a great point. Like, gradual growth for a rookie is fine. Like, that is good. Like, there's going to be some things, we talked about, some of his 2 of those interceptions on Sunday, like super easy, like learning things like, hey, you came out of a play action, you turn your back to the defense and you threw a route you can't throw with a sinking defender. He'll never make that mistake again. That happens when you get that experience, which I think is good. The flip side of this is that I think the other side of that coin is he can kind of control a little bit what the Browns do in the draft, because if they win 2 of these last 3 games, they're not going to be in position to take one of the top 2 quarterbacks.
Unless they trade up.
Unless they trade up, but you're fighting with the New York Jets, who are going to want a quarterback. They have like 4 first-round picks next year, or 3 first-round picks next year. So go ahead.
Oh, you're saying like in terms of trading up. I got you. I was going to sort of lay out the order, but yes.
Yeah, so not as much the order, but like you're going to have to. And let's say the Titans get the 1. They're not taking a quarterback. They're going to say the price tag is 3 1s, right? Here we go. They were setting the price tag, and to the highest bidder goes the spoils there. So if the Browns win, like if the Browns steal one against Pittsburgh and then beat Cincinnati, right, now you have 5 wins, and now you're like in that, let's say they're in 6 to 9, 6 to 10 range. And now you're like, okay, you're outside of Fernando Mendoza range, you're outside of Dante Moore potentially range, and that price is going to be high. Hey, let's either trade down and get something or draft Carnell Tate at 7, right? Or a wide receiver or a tackle, right? If they can win some of these games, they're going to be in that position. The flip side of that coin is that if they lose all the games, guess what? They're going to be at number 2, and they're going to be like, all right, here we go. We had nothing, none of the rookie quarterbacks showed anything last year. Let's take Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza and let's go to work,
Yeah. Well, and a lot of this too depends on the first conversation we had. Like, is everybody back? Is Andrew Berry at least back? Where like he has a clear path in mind of where this team's going to go and like what they're going to do. If it's a new regime, they might say, forget it. Like, we're going to trade the picks and get up and get our quarterback because we just want to get that out of the way right now. So that all sort of plays into this as well. We're actually flirting with another conversation I really want to have, but we don't have time to cover it today. So we're going to have to save it for next week. Listen, like here's a question. Do you think it's fair to look back and say the Browns, I think even saying mishandled the quarterback situation this year is too simple of an answer. But I like should Shedeur have started sooner? Like, I guess that's my thought, because he's the one that's shown the most promise in terms of like maybe having a future in this league. And if you would have maybe a 10, 11, 12, I don't know, like if he had started when Dylan took over and he only missed 4 games and he played 13, would that be a better? I think that would be at least a little bit of a better sample size, right? To indicate, can this guy make it in this league?
Spencer, I wish we could go back, and we have the power to. I wish we could go back and like right now play a clip from one of our shows in June or July, where I know for a fact we talked about this, where we were like, all right, like if Shedeur gets the second go at it and he gets the last 7 games and the team is checked out at the time, like what's that going to look like? And guess where we're at? The team is checked out. Sunday was a total throw it in the trash. Like, you could not take anything from Sunday's game. They had the worst offensive line you've ever seen. The wide receivers are nowhere to be found. You can't do anything. You don't have a run game. The Bears weren't scared of anything. You could not evaluate Shedeur on any level. And that's just the nature of the beast right now. Like, this Browns team is checked out. They are done with the season. The only person who's still got anything to play for is Myles Garrett, and he's not going to help Shedeur on the offensive side. So, like, that is the really tough part about how they did this. And we could have said this exact scenario on April 29th or 30th when they drafted him, or whatever day it was, when they're like, all right, you just took 2 quarterbacks. You're going to have to figure out what they are. And now you screwed yourself. You screwed yourself. And that part's the frustrating part.
Yeah, there's always
I say that 15 minutes after saying Andrew Berry had a great draft. You know what I mean? Like, what is it?
Well, that's also why this conversation is important for him, because if Shedeur emerges as the franchise quarterback, well, now that's another, that takes this draft class from being like, hey, this is an incredible draft class, to this is the best draft class in Browns history because you found your franchise quarterback. Like that. So that matters in that conversation. But there's always what ifs in any NFL season. What if Hollywood Higgins doesn't fumble the ball out of bounds on that I mean, I'm not trying to bring up like a soft spot. I'm just saying, like, if he doesn't fumble out of bounds, maybe they beat the Chiefs. That, like, you know what I mean? And then maybe Baker Mayfield's still here. Who the hell knows?
Maybe nobody knows
the
who
Super
Patrick
Bowl.
Mahomes is. And Mahomes is the quarterback in Tampa
yeah,
Bay.
like there's a lot of what ifs, but like I think the biggest what if from this season is going to be should Shador started sooner. Like I think everyone will always look back and say, should they have started this guy sooner? Maybe not if he becomes the franchise quarterback, but if he sort of fizzles out or they draft somebody this year and he's their guy or whatever, we'll always look back and say, did he have enough time? Should he have had more time? Should they have wasted time with Dylan Gabriel? And that's not, I'm not trying to knock Dylan Gabriel either. Like, I understand they wanted to give him some time too, and he deserved a chance to sort of prove himself once he did play. And based on their evaluation, they thought he was more prepared. But, you know, I just wonder, everyone's going to wonder if they played this thing right in that regard. You mentioned Myles and him having something to still play for. 1 sack away from tying the all-time single-season sack record. 1.5 to break it. You got Josh Allen talking about how I like being on highlights, but I don't want to be necessarily on that highlight. And
Josh Allen's so cool, dude. Like,
I love Josh, dude. He would work in this town, man. Like if he can work in Buffalo, very similar towns, cities. Like he absolutely would be a star in this town. So
real quick,
yeah.
the Josh Allen conversation, because we took Baker in 2018 and Josh went 5 picks later or whatever. His first 2 years, certainly his first season, wasn't great. Do you think? Oh, dude, it's so funny. We were talking about this pre-show. It should have been Sean McDermott and Josh Allen in Cleveland, and not because they went with Stefanski instead.
Well, let's be honest here. Like Josh Allen has sort of ruined, I think, in some ways, like how teams are scouting quarterbacks.
Yeah,
because like Lenore Sellers, I think is very similar, like stylistically to Josh Allen, especially coming out of college, and. There's always going to be Josh is like a rare breed that like the accuracy thing was a real issue for him, but he somehow got better. You know what I mean? Like he found ways to improve that, and he reined it in. Some of the recklessness in his game. He still at times like some of that flashes at times, but like, and that's all coaching. You know, Brian Dable was probably the perfect OC for him at a time that kind of helped him fix a lot of those things. Like, but not everybody can do that. You know, like. There's going to be so many teams that talk themselves into some of those guys that have like this raw talent. They're like, oh, I can harness this. And then it's just not going to happen because they're not Josh Allen. So, you know, I've wondered that too. And maybe he wouldn't have worked out here just because it's the Browns.
Dude, I look at him every day. And
when you see him play the way he's playing, you're like, man, like it'd be awesome to have him on any team that's obviously.
Could you imagine, dude, Myles Garrett on one side and Josh on the other, man? Oh,
yeah. I mean, that would be a match made.
I mean, shoot, it almost happened. They almost traded for him, so it almost happened.
Yeah, that would be a match made in heaven without question. Yeah. So but anyway, back to Myles for a second here. Like this is the sort of last carrot that fans have to sort of tune in this season is, can Myles break this record? What's he going to set it at as a new mark when he gets there? You know, I think it's funny, like Myles' demeanor, and I don't mean this in like a mean way to Myles, where like, I'm not saying he doesn't care about winning, because I still think that is his number one thing. But with the season in the toilet, his post games and stuff and his weekly press conferences have gone from a lot of like, yeah, you know, it's frustrating to keep losing, to just like, yeah, you know, I want to win, but you know, joking around about the record and talking about certain things. Like, so you can tell he's excited about it, even though it's a small thing in what he wants to accomplish in his career, and that's winning football games and being on a competitive team and all that. But listen, this is a cool storyline, and you know, it's that tough thing where it puts in perspective how good this guy is, how he's wasting his time here in Cleveland. And I know what people are going to say when they hear that is, well, he could have left, he tried, blah, blah, whatever. But you know, as exciting as it is, it's kind of like the Alonzo Mourning gif. You know what I'm talking about? Where he's like, he's shaking your head, and then you're like, I think that's probably how Browns fans are going to feel about it when he breaks it, because it's going to be like, man, maybe it would be like the reverse of the Alonzo Mourning gift, because it would be like, whew, this dude is good. Like, how lucky are we to watch this guy play on Sundays? And that's going to come with the realization of like, holy crap, we probably lose another football game, and we're 3-12, and what are we doing? Like wasting this season for the record books where Myles breaks this record. Like it's just crazy that he's doing this in a year where that's like the main story, right? Is him breaking this has become a bigger story than like anything else other than Shador this season. And it's just unfortunate. I know we've talked about this a ton this season, but it's just, when he breaks it, I think that probably is going to be how a lot of people react to it. And I think he gets it done this weekend, but I don't know how you feel.
Germ, it's funny because like this is probably like way deeper than I think that you were maybe trying to get, but like I think like in 10 years from now, when he's getting inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I'm sitting there in the crowd because I'll be there for sure. Maybe I have a son next to me, maybe a nephew, maybe my brother, maybe my dad, and we're looking up and they're like, and in September of 2025, he had 5 sacks in a game, and I'll be like, yeah, they lost by 30. Man, like that's going to be kind of the thoughts around that is like, all of this is for naught, and it just sucks for him because, people are all up in arms and fussy about, hey, he can't complain and he can't do this. He signed up for this.
Hasn't he like put that all to bed though? Like,
in my opinion, bro, yes,
I understand people are like, hey, he took the money, blah, blah, blah. And people don't like that anyway. But when you come out and have this season,
sure.
Like, did you not like live up to the contract and like, silent? I understand like he dragged the organization, but like he showed up. He showed up involved, man. Like you can't really say anything. There's nothing you can really use against him when that's the season that he gives you, even in a losing effort in a year where the team stinks. Like he didn't quit. He hasn't quit obviously to this point. Like he is putting on. This is the best season of his career, and he did it after he got paid. That's what you hope for.
Spence, it was negative 20 degrees in Chicago. You were there. The Browns were 3-10, and guess who's rushing a kick and trying to block a kick off the edge? Myles freaking Garrett, where Denzel Ward usually is. Like if you were checked out of a season and you didn't want it and you just wanted your sack record, you wouldn't be doing that. Like he's totally, in my opinion, put that thing to bed, man. But it's like you feel bad for him because there would be nobody better that if the Browns started winning, no one would be more deserving than Myles Garrett to like celebrate that. Like imagine a home playoff game where I was thinking about this today. Like imagine this game on Sunday being meaningful for the top seed in the AFC and Josh Allen starting a 2-minute drive and Myles Garrett sacks him on 2nd down or 3rd down. It's like, that's the sack you want, not the garbage time sack against, Caleb Williams when you're down 25 points. It's like, man, why couldn't we have that? Like that sounds like a lot of fun, but we'll never have it, which sucks.
This is an interesting conversation, I guess. What is it going to take at this point for Myles to be considered the greatest player in franchise history? Look, it's either him or Jim Brown. And Jim Brown has a championship, obviously, from 1964, the last time this team won a championship.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever convince any like the old heads that like he's better than Jim Brown. And like I think maybe not like a bad.
Well, and the old heads love to say, he what has he won? Blah blah blah. Like we hear that with Jordan and LeBron all the time, right? So like, he hasn't won anything, so he can't be. When really it's like, dude, it's even harder in football to win than it is in the NBA as like an individual. But anyway, continue.
But it's like I never watched Jim Brown play. Myles is certainly the best player that I've ever seen in a Browns uniform. And like you'll never hear me say anything other than that. If he's not there now, Jeremy, he's got to be close. And I don't know what else you can do. Maybe set the record again next year and maybe win a little bit. And I don't know.
That'd be crazy. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is one of the greatest individual seasons I've seen ever in my life. Now, I wasn't alive for Jim Brown, so I can't speak to that. But like he's easily, if it's 1A, 1B situation, like that's it. But this season's been awesome for him. And I think a good place to sort of wrap this too is looking at this matchup from like a, I don't know, overarching perspective here. And I think it actually kind of starts with like Myles as part of this, because what's interesting about the Bills and the Browns, and we know like some of the historic matchups between these two, there's like that Thursday night game where like EJ Manuel got hurt and whatever. Like we all remember the fluky games between these two teams. But what's interesting is like both these franchises used to be in the same place, right? Yeah. Like when the Browns returned in 99 and then like the Bills kind of that era where they went to 4 Super Bowls ended, like they were both in the same sort of time frame, just like the laughing stock of the NFL, couldn't win games, found ways to lose, couldn't find the quarterbacks. And then around the same time, they both kind of hit this stride where it was like, hey, maybe we're going to see the Bills and the Browns be really good at the same time too. And the Browns draft Myles. A year later, they draft Baker. Bills draft Josh Allen. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden, you're sort of on your way here and you're trending in the right direction. Both teams have their quarterbacks. Both teams have some other transcendent players on both sides of the ball. And, you fast forward 7-8 years later, and one of these teams nailed the quarterback and has been a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And the other team is still flailing in the wind looking for that franchise quarterback and trying to figure that thing out. And it's kind of interesting where these two teams have kind of come from in that regard. And it's gonna be on full display on Sunday, where it's like one of these teams is in a very different spot. One of these teams is still just lost and dazed and confused and can't get out of its own way. And, how did we get here? Where even the Bills have now lapped the Browns in historic fashion. And like the Browns are sort of left holding the bag. Like on one hand, I think it does give Browns fans hope. Like that can be us one day if we just get this position figured out. But at the same time, it's like, it's been so hard for them to figure it out. When are they going to figure it out? You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of an interesting backdrop to this game as well. Not to like leave on a depressing note, I guess. Here.
No, I would. I'm gonna double down on your depressing note here. But like, which franchise is in more of a hell though? It's like the Browns have sucked for forever, but the Bills have now gotten to AFC Championship games, just like they had in the Super Bowl era where they lost 4 straight. The boogeyman, Patrick Mahomes, beats them every year.
He's not going to be there this year.
He's out, and they're thinking Super freaking Bowl. I do the same show. I do the Bills show for our roundtable site, and they are thinking Super
So
Bowl.
over there, you're like talking about, man, Bills have always been my favorite football team.
No. I had my Browns gear on. This week, and I do believe I predicted a bad score for the Browns because I do think it's going to be ugly on Sunday. But yeah, they're all up in arms because they feel like they haven't given Josh the team around him. They've all turned on Brandon Beane. They've all turned on Brandon Beane because that roster is not what it should be.
Oh no, I listen. I'm still in those circles from when I worked in the Western New York media market. Like they don't have a number one wide receiver, so they're pissed about it. I mean, I've seen for several years like the fire McDermott takes. Like, so it's funny. That's actually a really funny point because
are they in the same? Are we? Like, yeah, we're much closer.
That's what's funny about it is like they're in very different places, and in many respects, like shouldn't you be grateful for where you're at? But like we're in Cleveland. As much as things change, the more they stay the same, almost right. Like here in Cleveland, maybe this team stinks, and they're talking about getting rid of a coach and a GM. But in Buffalo, the team's good, and they're still talking about getting rid of a coach and GM because it's not good enough. So I think that's kind of interesting. Like they've become the haves all of a sudden, and it's still not enough.
It's the Toy Story meme, and I think it was Toy Story 4 where like the spork is holding Woody and it goes, "You're just like me. You're trash too now." It's the Browns holding the Bills, man. You thought you could get out, dude. We pulled you right on back. No different than us, boys.
Oh man, yeah. Maybe this game could get multiple people fired. Who knows? Like if the Bills somehow found a way to lose it, maybe it means Brandon Beane's on the outs in Buffalo. Who knows?
We do our predictions. We do our predictions on Sunday. I got time to change mine, but like, the Bills are on like warpath mode right now, and especially.
What would it take for you to change yours before we submit them on Saturday? Like Josh Allen comes down with like some sort of illness. He can't play this weekend.
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's going to change. I'm trying to think of something even funny to say, but I have nothing because it ain't changed. I think this is. Yeah. I think it could get ugly on Sunday though.
I think you're probably right. Well, you'll have to wait and see what our predictions officially are. We'll have those for you over at brownsroundtable.com. They usually go up Saturday morning-ish, sometimes afternoon.
Depends if I remember to send it to German.
Yeah, sometimes afternoon, whatever. It's fine. No one's really keeping I don't think anyone's keeping our record on us anyway this year, so that's fine. But make sure you check that out. Make sure you check out other stuff throughout the rest of the week from practice out in Berea. Comments that are made by some of the assistant coaches. We'll talk to them on Thursday as well. So a lot of good stuff still to come. And as always, I want to remind you to subscribe to our channel because we get these videos up there for you. The press conferences each week, pre, post game, the stuff throughout the week. These podcast episodes are pre and post game videos, is what I meant to say earlier. So a lot of good content for you here on the Browns front. And there's a lot to talk about with this team, despite the record, because changes could be coming. Shedeur Sanders trying to sort of prove what he can do as the potential future quarterback of this team. Myles Garrett and the sack record, like never, despite the circumstances, this team always has something to talk about, and we're here to talk about it with you at Browns Roundtable. Thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. We will talk to you next Sunday morning with our pre-game conversation. Until then, have a great week and keep on following along with all things Cleveland Browns with Cleveland Browns Roundtable.